Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, so Jane, you're the only one I see.
I'm just audio again, Mackenzie.
Okay.
Oh, here I am. Tell me.
Hi, Rupert. I know we were, I'm sorry, I just was trying to swallow and I swallowed wrong, so I'm like choking. I apologize. There was a little bit of a delay getting on the meeting, so I'm glad you guys all figured out how to make it happen. All right, so it looks like, so Charlie, you're here, yes?
Yes.
Okay, and let's see. So we're waiting on Dan. I know Dan was having trouble getting on. And I don't see Jean either.
Yeah, for some reason it kept telling me that the organizer was not there yet.
I know it said the same thing to me, and I thought I was the organizer. So I think it must be that Brian was still considered the organizer. So we're still waiting for Dan. And Dan just called me, so I'm just going to quick text Dan and make sure he's able to get on okay. Nope. Hello?
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Now
Okay.
you're in stereo.
All right, I'll work on you being able to see me, but I see Rupert and Jane.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
right,
I'll keep working on the rest. Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right, so we've got, well, no, we don't have Dan.
I'm here in voice.
Oh,
yes.
You are here. Okay, you're not on my list of.
I don't know why.
I see why. Because you're for some reason you're as an attendee instead of as a like a staff member as part of our group. So I'm not really sure how that happened, but we'll work with it.
All right, I can, as long as, well, everything looks psychedelic here anyways. If you're happy enough just listening to me, I'm okay with that.
Great. You know what? We're gonna work with what we have. Okay, so we're just waiting for Jean, who will hopefully be joining us shortly. I haven't. Brian, are you here? Maybe not.
I'm here if you need me.
Hi. So Brian, did you start the recording?
I did.
Oh, all right.
I thought you all were sort of like in a parking lot and you weren't able to join in for some reason, so I hit start so you could all begin.
Okay. So we're gonna then go ahead and start since it started. And I see Jean is here as well. Great. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start at 5:07. Jane, are you willing to take notes again today?
Well, I guess I thought I might.
Excellent.
Now that I've sort of seen the transcript, I might speak to that for a few moments, but I'm hoping today it's really just going to be about these interview questions. So
yes, so I want to just say, starting out, Jane, that those notes were very comprehensive. I think you went into more detail than I was expecting. So
okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, they were lovely. I don't necessarily know that you need that much detail, but they were great. So I appreciate you doing that, and if you'll do it again today, I'm super appreciative. And Rupert's nodding his head because he's usually our secretary. So
Okay. Well, knowing I don't even have to go into that much detail, I guess I was trying to include whatever seemed important The transcript is really not that helpful. It kind of, it might have confirmed some of my notes, but the transcriptions like all over the place. Our names, everything was kind of a mess. So I just pretty much relied on my notes with the transcript to back me up if I wasn't quite sure. And the only thing was I didn't really mention any names in the minutes. The few times I could have, I chose not to, and I hope that's okay with people. I wasn't quite sure. Okay.
Yeah, I would say the only thing that I would ask you to do is just, if there is a motion and a second, to just mention who did the motion and then who did the second
Okay.
name of the motion, just so we have those names. I think other than that, yeah, I mean,
Okay.
like I said, I thought you did a lovely job and put a lot of detail into it. So,
Well, okay, I'll try to get the names. The one, I mean, so Charlie, I guess I just want to ask you, I did not indicate that you were the member who wanted to keep to sort of, the whole question about the applications that were late. Would you like me to name you as that person? Do you not care? Does it matter to you one way or the other? I don't know if that makes sense.
It doesn't really matter to me whether I'm named or not, but
Okay. It was kind of like you were the only person I had named, and then I thought that seemed a little odd, so I just took your name out. But I may just leave it then if nobody has any objections.
so why don't we do this first? Let's approve the minutes. So that'll allow us to have some conversation about specifically what's in the minutes. Yes,
Oh,
Rupert.
okay.
You're still muted, Rupert.
Forgot. Sorry about that. The dog was barking. Uh-oh. I make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
And is there a second?
I'd second that. Stan?
Excellent. Okay, so are there specific things in the minutes that we need to have any sort of changes, amendments, anything? Now is the time to discuss that.
I believe this is Rupert, and I believe the motion to consider all of the applications was made by Dan and seconded by me.
I agree.
Say that again, Rupert.
Dan made the motion to consider all the applicants that applied on the right day, and I seconded that motion.
This is Dan. I agree with that.
Thank you. I can make that note. I can change that. Okay. Okay. So I should amend that in the minutes. Yes.
Yep.
If I turn this way to see my other computer, does it seem weird?
Well, we just have a profile picture now. That's okay.
Okay, I'm still paying attention to you. I have two screens up and running here.
I'm doing the same thing. I'm calling him up on my phone so that I can. I have to say that in Google, I know how to screen share. I do not know how to screen share yet, although I'm sure Brian has showed me, in this particular format. So as soon as I get a little better at this, I will do my best to screen share, and that would be certainly helpful moving forward. But for the moment, I apologize. I'm not skilled on how to do that.
Chair, you should have additional functionality.
Okay, but I have to get it up on my screen first, Brian, which I don't have, right?
You're talking about the document or the image you want to?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have a screen or if you have a particular application, say it was a website you wanted to show, as long as it's already open and ready, under the sharing tab on your control panel, you'll see that big play button. And then underneath that play button, you will see a drop-down menu, and you should be able to choose whatever it is that you wanted to share.
Yeah, so I don't have that open right now because I wasn't expecting to be able to do that. So I can't
Okay.
do that at the moment.
Yep. But whenever you, in the future, whenever you want to, you should have that ability.
Okay. Thank you.
So, this is Rupert. For those of you who don't have a screen, Jean texted saying she has to move her car and try for a better connection.
Oh, poor Jean. Thank you.
So she's trying.
Yep, I'm here.
There she is. Yay.
Hello. Okay, so there's a motion on the table to accept the minutes as amended. Is there anything else that needs to be amended? No, we feel good about the rest of the minutes?
I'm good. This is Dan.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, unless anybody has anything else, then we'll just go ahead and accept the minutes as amended, as the amendments that were mentioned earlier.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
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 All right. That sounded
Aye,
like
yeah.
everyone. All right, moving on. I am going to, so the other agenda item we have is the questions, the interview questions. And then finally, after that, we need to decide on a process for the interview, how long the interviews are going to last individually. If we're going to do them over 2 days, or if we feel 3 days is really necessary. So we'll have to get all those logistics figured out as well. So let's go ahead and start with the interview questions. I know that Jane did a Google Doc. Thank you, Jane. I don't know if everyone had a chance to see it.
Could I ask a question too about it?
Sure.
So I see Rupert going to his computer. There was this funny message. It said something about Rupert, Charlie, and Brian don't have Gmail accounts now, but they have to get them within 14 days or something like that. I didn't quite understand that, but I'm curious if you can still access the Google Doc even without a Gmail account. Can you access that, Rupert, or Charlie or Brian?
Not only did I access it, but I added a bunch of questions.
Oh, cool. Okay. Shoot, I didn't look at it. I didn't see them.
I'm gonna
facing
both computers.
I'm gonna try and call it up so that we can I can do the screen share. So if everybody will just be patient for a minute, or go ahead and keep on discussing, and I will, as soon as I get it, I will call it up. I will bring it on the screen for you.
You'll bring up the Google Doc?
Yes, I'm attempting to do that. Yep.
Oh boy, does this mean, Jean, you're outside?
I am actually squatting in front of the library.
Can you not do it from your car?
There's too many people also wishing to use the internet. They're getting the better signal. So
I see.
hopefully by next week. I'm trying to get something hooked up at home for next week because this is a little ridiculous. I look like the Grim Reaper.
Yeah. Well, that and it's cold and raining.
Yeah. Oh man. Wait, are you in Irving or are you in New Salem?
Wendell.
Wendell. Oh.
Wendell.
Wendell, sorry. Oh, wow.
Okay, Okay, so while I'm doing this, I mean, we certainly can be talking about the questions. You don't need to wait for me. So go ahead and let's discuss.
Well, I didn't see Rupert's questions. Gosh darn it. I'm going to try to look for them quick.
I have it on my screen in front of me. I see you're in now, Jean.
Yep, I have it as well. I'm just going to work on getting it so that I can share screen share with you. Appreciate everybody's patience as we work out these technical.
Jean, is that you in the document?
Okay, can you see it?
Okay.
I see it.
You see it. Okay. So,
Okay.
Charlie, are you at a computer at all, or are you on your phone?
I'm on my phone, but I can see the screen.
Oh, you can. Okay. All right. So is there anybody that cannot see the Google Doc right now?
I see it, but only part of it.
Yeah. Well, you can only see what I have on the screen. I'll scroll up.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay. So let's go ahead and start from the top. And if anybody has a suggestion as to how to manage this, I'm happy to let somebody else kind of go ahead and manage this. Otherwise, I was just going to simply read through what was here or edit as we went. Does anybody have a suggestion?
Why don't you just read through them all at first? Like, let's not edit until we've seen them all. Okay.
Okay, I can do that. Looks like there's maybe 2 pages. So starting at the top, we've just increased our shelf space and need to improve our collection for the adult fiction area. What would be the 10 most popular authors you'd want to check for first? COVID-19 is affecting library services. If we continue to operate from a closed building, what new services would you offer our patrons, and what do you see staff doing? Next one, our young adults barely saw the new building before it closed. They are a varied group: gamers, serious readers, crafters. How would you engage them, and what new services would you offer them? What aspects of this position do you expect to like the most, the least? We are open Sundays, and it's one of our busiest days. When we return to working from 2 Care Drive, how do you feel about working every Sunday? Here's some other ones from another person. Tell us about a library event you planned that was either very successful or very unsuccessful, and why. Explain a collaboration with a school library that you were involved with. How did it go, and what would you do differently in the future? How will you advocate for the new Irving Public Library in light of the strong possibility of reduced funding and or resources? Young adults, tell us a little about your experience working with young adults in terms of library spaces as well as collections and programs. What have you found engages them? Tell us about your experience working with and developing budgets for libraries and defending those budgets in the context of all the town departments. What experience do you have maintaining computers, laptops, iPads, etc., and selecting and installing software? What experience do you have working with and maintaining wireless networks, antivirus and anti-malware software, and privacy controls? Please share with us some experiences you have had helping less tech-savvy people with their technology, and tell us your vision of how a small library can make a difference in the lives of older adults. These are wonderful. And then added to them is the, I hope you all got the copy of the email, of the questions that I had. And then, Dan, where is the questions that you had?
I had emailed them, I think, to everybody, but I don't know where they came from if they didn't come from Brian. I'm not aware of anybody else sending me questions related to this library. But I sent a page and a half of what was there.
Okay.
I'm not locked, from my point here, I'm not locked into a particular question. The ones that are being asked satisfy my needs. It's difficult to get to know somebody in a short interview anyways.
Okay, so those are the ones that were presented onto the Google Doc, and we have Dan's email that he sent, and then my email that I sent. So between all the three documents, we need to kind of make our list of questions that we are going to ask. Keeping in mind, of course, that we don't have an unlimited amount of time with these people, so we'll have to be as thoughtful as we can about each questions in the time frame that we have to ask them.
Mackenzie,
Yes.
I did not see the questions that you asked or that you posed. Are they on?
I emailed them to you as an attachment because I just took a picture of them because I only had them in paper copy. They were the same questions that were in the transcript.
Oh, yeah.
read them.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, how would people like to begin kind of narrowing down the questions? Does anybody have a suggestion as to how to manage that?
Well, if we just start at the top and ask consensus, do you want to include this one or not? Go down the list. Some of them have to come out. We don't have time to ask all the questions.
Right. Okay, I will put a little colored something or other next to ones that we want to keep. So,
and maybe could I just say, maybe each question we could sort of give it a category or something, or a designation, and then we could see whether or not we've, what are the topics that we're hitting with the question, or does that make sense? So we get kind of like the way Rupert did his, but
Yep.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I read this last one?
Ooh.
I may have missed this last one. As a library director, you would be expected to show leadership with staff and volunteers as well as in the community. Describe your leadership style with people you are responsible to supervise. Describe your leadership style with peers, such as other department heads. Okay, I want to make sure I got that one in. All right, so let's go ahead and start at the top. If y'all can still see my screen. So what do we want to say this one speaks to?
Collections?
Yeah. Collection.
This is Dan. I'm sorry I can't raise my hand. It seems like 10 authors is quite a high number of to ask somebody just off the cuff.
Say it again, Dan.
Seems like asking for 10 authors is quite a large number, just asking for somebody unprepared.
Okay.
My thought was, Dan, that, sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
My thought was that most people who work in the library could probably come up with 10 authors pretty quick. And I just want to be sure we get somebody who's got some public library experience, but I'm not particularly attached to the question.
Okay. I think it's an interesting question to get to know the person, what their priorities are, or what their interests are. 10 might be just for the time, might be too many. Can we shorten that to a smaller number? Maybe your top 4 or 5?
Well, and could I ask?
We might just go with a different question.
Jean,
go ahead, Jane.
Did you mean, so what would the 10 most popular authors, are these the authors that this person would see if Irving already had their books, or these would be the 10 authors this person would try to put in right away, right off the bat?
It's just sort of, do they know who the 10 most popular authors are for adults? I could come up with 10 of the most popular authors, and I am not a library director and don't have as much experience as the people we're going to hire. But like I said, there are other questions that sort of speak to whether or not people have worked in a public library. So we could just skip that one and work off one of the other ones.
Okay, let's keep that in mind. Rupert, would you mind,
Typing?
you're on the page. Can you continue to just put notes?
Sure.
And
Oh,
can you
that'd be
put
great.
adult collection? Because that's what Jean seems like Jean was looking for, was the adult 10 most popular authors.
Oops. Yeah, I just have to remember which keyboard I'm using.
I think that's pretty important too. It's a good question about finding out. Yeah, like somebody said, getting to know this person right off the bat, and also seeing what do they know about about specific collections, because sometimes directors don't do that kind of thing. You know, if it's a bigger library, somebody else is the one who's actually ordering books. But in this case, this person is going to be doing the ordering. So I think that's a good question. I think maybe we should come back to it after we've talked about some of the others, because it feels like it's not quite right,
I
but
agree.
maybe it is. Yeah.
Okay, so of course the next one is obviously timely about the COVID-19. How do people feel about this one? What new services would you offer patrons, and what do you see staff doing? So that's certainly a managerial question as well as a program question.
Great.
I think it's also a technology question, and oh, sorry, am I muted? No, I'm not.
No, you're good.
I think it's also a technology question and a community question. It hits on, I don't know how to categorize that one. That's a good one.
Okay, yep.
This is a unusual circumstances, be creative question.
Yeah, I think it's an opportunity for people to exactly be a little creative, show their personality again.
Dan, I'm fine with that question.
Sorry?
So Dan, I'm fine with that question.
Okay. Next one, young adults barely saw the new library. How would you engage them, and what new services would you offer them? So this is like speaking to the teen room.
Right. I mean, they won't necessarily know what services we have now, so I would take the word new out, but other than that, I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Good idea.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. What aspects of the position do you like the most, the least?
I'm going to call it why be a library director.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if you want to say why be the Irving Public Library Director. I don't know. That's how I read it. It's like, why? What about Irving and this job? Yeah, why Irving? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
You know, here's my thing about the next question about being open on Sunday, and I think actually we were talking about this in a trustee meeting once. As somebody personally who's gone on several job interviews, if somebody said in order to have the job I needed to stand on my head, I probably would say sure, I'd be happy to. So you know, what would you be how do you feel about working on Sunday? I can't picture anybody saying anything but I would love to, even if that's not their true feelings. I don't know that we would get an actual truthful answer from people. If that's what we're telling them, our library are open those hours, unlikely we're going to change them anytime soon. It would not be smart of an applicant to not say that they'd be willing to do that. So I don't know about that one. I'm on the fence on that question.
This is Dan. I think if typically people want to think of Sunday as a typical work day, they may and may not already know this if they did any research about a library. I think it's important that we at least bring the subject up so we don't get down to a final candidate or two and then they say, oh, I'm not working on a Sunday. I mean, they may have reasons, on Sunday that are valid.
Yep. Okay. I mean, that's true. And whoever has the busy road in the back, if they could mute theirs just while they're not talking.
That'd be me.
Tell us about a library event you planned that was either successful or unsuccessful. How do people feel about this one?
I like it because it gives the applicant a chance to show whether they're reflective or not, whether they can be self-critical or not, and whether they get jazzed by event planning.
I think we might be able to somewhat combine this question and the next question if we say, what would you do differently in the future? And I understand that the next question is related specifically to a school library, but the event planning, was it very successful or unsuccessful, and why? I would want to know, what would you do differently in the future? I mean, things happen. That's always the case. But how are you going to modify it for the future, for the next time you do it? That would be the thing that I would want to hear, that they have thought about it, they've reflected on it, and they've come up with a plan for future.
Could I chime in just with a thought? Excuse me. We've typically, I can't speak to every library, but I'm not aware that they all have as many programs as we've had planned here. I haven't planned them, but we've had everything from Chuckles the Clown to Elvis impersonators to a variety of historical recreations. There's constantly many things going on. And I think it's important to determine if this person is comfortable just having the imagination to come up with these different programs that we might have, unless we want to change our policy, which I don't think we do.
So Dan, are you suggesting you want a whole new question, or are you speaking to a question that's already there?
I think when we leave the question for event planning, but whoever asks it, might preface it by saying we have a wide variety of programs, has been our history. We'd like to continue that, and then tell us something about what you've done, successful or otherwise.
Okay, so you want to add on to this question
Just
with a little bit of backstory. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Rupert, do you want to make that change?
Perfect.
I'll just say add background info for now.
Yeah. I think that's fine.
Could I just ask a question? Does Barbara do most of the planning? Because you do have lots of events, and I was thinking that it might give you a question about it, might also give you a sense of the type of thing that person might do. But but is Barbara the person who basically does most of the planning?
This is Dan. I'm not aware of other people doing a lot, although Jean does some. Jean could probably answer that better than I.
Jean, can you speak to it?
Oh,
Are you muted?
I'm going to tell her she's still muted.
yeah.
Jean, can you hear us?
Oh.
Yeah, I can hear you.
There you are.
Okay.
It says I'm unmuted.
You are now.
Can't hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
we can
Oh,
hear you.
good.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. So Barbara does most of the adult planning. With some help from the friends. The friends do plan some adult programming also. I do most of the children's programming.
Okay, so so there's definitely a mix between the three of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
So as far as the question about collaboration with the schools, would that be something that the expectation is that this director would do?
Oh, because Jean, I do more, yeah, it's true. I do more things, I think, with Jean other than when I plan our visits. I don't know. I think that would, Jean, what do you think about if we need a question like that?
Jean may have muted herself again. I can't hear her.
I know, I agree. I think what I think it is she's having trouble with her connection.
I got it.
Ah, there you are.
I'm back. Now, I was using a trick that works in Zoom. It does not work in this program. I didn't realize it. Sorry. And now I've forgotten what was the question.
The question was, do you feel that we need to ask a question about collaborating with schools, or is that really more what you do?
That's going to depend on the new director. The new director can decide that they want to be the person who deals mostly with the schools, or that they, for instance, do not wish to work on Sundays. They're going to make the rules be however they want. So while I do usually do the collaborations with Jane, I don't think it's a bad idea to ask them how they feel about it. See what their ideas are.
Okay, so do we need to maybe reword this question? Do you collaborate with school libraries? Something like that, instead of describe a time where you did?
Uh,
Or do you expect to collaborate, to do the collaboration?
yeah. And you,
Because I don't want a candidate who has not collaborated with the school not to get a good score on that. If that's just something that they don't do, we already have a person that does do that. I don't think it's necessarily a detriment to us to not have a person who has experience collaborating with a school.
yeah. I'm going to jump in here too, because I know amongst school librarians, we often talk about being in touch with our public library. And I feel like there are some school librarians who are sometimes reluctant to make that connection. I'm not sure if that's common for the public libraries to be reluctant. My experience has always been that public librarians are very eager to make the connection. They generally kind of wait for the school person to sort of do that initiation, I guess. And I certainly never felt that with I never felt any reluctance or anything with Barbara. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what is it that we really want to know. But yeah, maybe just, can you speak to collaboration with school libraries? I kind of like that.
Yeah, I wasn't meaning that we would have a candidate that was reluctant to do it. I'm just saying they may not have had the experience doing it. If they came from a public library that just wasn't part of their job, like we have a Jean who can do it, I wouldn't want to negatively rate them because we already have a person on our team that can function that way, which would be Jean. So that's all I was trying to say. I want to make it sure it's neutral enough that they don't get a low score because they don't have that experience.
Right. Yeah, my guess is that most public librarians have some experience because it's pretty common, I think, for public librarians, especially around summer reading. You know, they always want to get into schools to do summer reading programs and sort of summer reading previews and stuff like that. I'm liking what Rupert is writing in here, which is just sort of, I would like to, I think you might want to hear what they, at least just how they respond. Yeah, I don't, people could say that they don't have much experience. That's okay too. Yeah, I don't, let's see.
Yeah, that's fine. I think we're creating, Rupert in essence is creating a different type of a question, which
Yeah.
the broader question. So Rupert, just change the title to collaboration with, you know, other town departments as opposed to schools.
How much is collaboration?
Just collaborate, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine too.
I could include town newsletter here. That's a twist.
That's a lot to ask in one question.
Yeah, and you might almost lose the person. I almost might stick to just school library, senior centers, and veterans groups. Not lose the person, but you might, it's sort of, you don't want to dilute the question either.
Yeah, that's a big question.
Before you, could I jump in before you delete it all?
Yep.
I think it's important that we mention it because those are things we've had happening, and we, at least in my opinion, we want them to continue. And for the person to be aware that maybe they're already aware of all this stuff, but for them to be aware that here at the Irving Public Library, we do this kind of collaboration with newsletters and veterans and youth groups and everybody else, so that they're not thinking it's only limited to a school. I think including these other things is fine. I don't think we'll lose them. And I think in my reason for liking this question sort of expanded, it gives us an idea if they have much experience with collaboration, widespread or not.
Okay. I think that's reasonable.
Okay.
What if we, it's Jean, what if we just reworded the question so it said, here in Irving, the library collaborates with the school library, other town organizations, and we could mention everything we wanted and then ask the question. So they understood how, all the places, but they got the question at the end and don't lose it.
Okay. Thank you, Rupert, for taking on editing.
Yeah, that's great.
And it really is nice to see it in real time, everybody looking at the same screen.
Can you speak to collaboration with other? Can you speak to your view, your vision, your experience?
I think experience.
Yeah, what about experience and vision? Or somehow if they don't have much experience through no fault of their own, but maybe they do have a vision. Yeah, can you speak to your experience and or vision about collaboration?
Listen.
Can you speak to your experience and or vision on collaboration or something like that? With other departments, other town groups. Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah.
We can always ask on these questions, we can always ask a follow-up, what went well there? What did you learn from that? I don't think we have to have it in the script.
I'm fine with
again,
that.
we would just want to make sure that if we asked it of one, we tried to be as consistent as possible. I agree that based on their answer, you might need to follow up a little bit, but as consistent as we can be for each candidate. But I like the question. Sometimes candidates answer the questions as, answer the next question as they're answering, a different one. So you don't need to specifically ask it, but if they don't answer it, you'd want to follow up to get that information. So I would say get rid of that second paragraph then.
Get rid of the
Yeah.
highlighted section?
Yep.
We all good? I don't know whose words I'm chopping up. Sorry about that.
Doesn't
Okay
matter.
with me.
It's a group effort.
Okay, so I put a tag on the next one.
You what?
I put the budgets and funding tag on the next question.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fine with it.
There's more questions on that category, so.
Yep.
Right. We might sort of put them together when we get there. I think my feeling was trying to get a sense of their comfort with advocating, which is also kind of what, like you say, defending the budgets. Is this a person who will be able to get up there and really fight for the library, basically?
I put them next door to each other.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, well, then let's take on the young adults one, and then we'll take on the budget questions. We'll try
You
and
want me to
keep.
put this to the other young adults one?
Sorry?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is the next question we're going to talk about. Young adults. Tell us a little about your experience working with young adults in terms of library spaces, as well as collections and programs. So this is kind of similar, I think, in a sense to this question.
You want me to move them next to each other so you can see them together?
Well, if you do that, then I feel like we're going to miss them. So not for the moment, but I can get them on the screen both at the same time. So we're looking at the one in the pink and then the one down here. I kind of feel like they're similar enough that we don't need both of them.
Agreed.
I just make them into one question.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Can I cut and paste this one down next to the other one so we can?
I would get rid of this one. I would move it back up to this one.
Okay, move the lower one to the upper one.
Yeah, I'm just
Yep,
trying to
that's fine.
stay organized.
Yeah,
It's
that's
my
fine.
usual way to organize it.
You bet. I'm easy.
What do we feel that the two questions have differently that we need to make sure we combine when we combine them into one question?
I like that there's a description of the differences between our young adult patrons.
Uh-huh.
I was trying to get in some chance for people who'd worked with teens outside of the library to also incorporate that information.
I think this part, tell us a little bit about your experience working with young adults could go up into here and then just say, and so how would you engage them and what services would you like to offer them? What's your experience and then what would you want to offer?
Yeah.
See, and I wouldn't have thought this part in here. I would stop and just tell us a little bit of your experience working with young adults. And then
And
what
what-
have you found engages them?
Yeah.
And what services would you like to offer them in the public library?
Like that?
Tell us a little about your experience working with young adults. See, I'm saying get rid of in terms of the library spaces. What have you found engages them? What services would you like to offer them at the public library, in the public library, or for the public library?
Yeah, I wanted to get them to think beyond programs. I wanted them to think about space, technology, activities. Maybe services says all of that.
Mm-hmm.
What about services and activities? Or is that the same thing?
Jean, what do you think?
I don't think it's the same thing, but go ahead, Jean.
I don't think it's the same. I think it makes you think about the question differently.
I agree. I would
I
put
agree.
services and programs
I agree too.
Programs?
or activities. Sorry, either one of those.
Services and activities, yeah. But
You like activities, Jean, or programs?
Activities.
It's so weird. I have two documents in front of me, but I'm only controlling one of them. Cool. So I'll get rid of this section. Is that you doing that?
Yep. Again, just to stay organized. Oh, actually, that didn't work well, did it?
That's okay. It's just lines. I can take care of it. Oops.
That's weird. Yes, thanks, Rupert. I'll let you do this.
I'll do that.
Thank you. It just helps me to see where we're at. We still have a lot of questions, so we need to pare down. Okay, so I'm going to scroll up till we get back to the ones we were. So now we're at the 2 budget questions. How will you advocate for the new library in light of the strong possibilities of reduced funding? And tell us about your experience working with and developing budgets for libraries and defending those budgets in the context of all of the town departments. So I think these, again, I'm not sure if they're different enough that we need them as 2 separate questions. So what do people think?
I think we have too many questions already, and making those 2 into 1 makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because the question is, how will you advocate and defend? And this is also, how will you advocate and defend? Whether
yeah.
it's
Oh, yeah.
at the town floor or at the federal government level, or the state and local government, it's all defending the budget. So let's see how we can make this into one budget question.
To me, number nine just about covers the whole thing.
I agree. I was just about to say that, Dan. I would get rid of 8 completely and just stay with 9.
Is that okay with everybody?
Me too.
Yeah. So could I just ask a question? I mean, of Charlie. Charlie, you're on the finance committee, right?
Yes, I am.
Is there anything special or anything that you can think of? I don't know quite what I'm asking, but if about the connection with the library's budget or how that gets defended or even determined?
I think number 8 is a good question for the candidate. I think that would solve that, or at least put that out there for them to think about it and hopefully give a good answer.
Yeah, yeah.
Why don't, I mean, we could,
Yeah, I like adding that, Rupert. I think that is a good choice.
It doesn't quite make sense though.
oh, that's right, this is an apple.
What if it was, tell us your experience working with, how about tell us your experience developing and defending budgets with trustees, finance committees, town meetings? Maybe taking out the working with, but adding defending somewhere in there, and then taking out the end part. Tell us about your experience developing and defending budgets with.
Defending sounds so like confrontational to me.
Advocating?
Yeah, I kind of would prefer a different word than defending. I like advocating. For the budget. So tell us about your experience with developing and advocating for the budget with trustees, finance committee.
For the library budget, yeah. For the, obviously,
well,
I guess.
I think
Yeah,
we know we're talking about the library, but.
Okay, so this leaves out the competition element of other town departments. I don't know whether we care about that or not.
I know, again, I kind of feel like that's pitting ourselves against the other departments, and we always are trying to not do that. I don't know that any question of a future town employee that we want to say that.
Yeah, I think that was flavored. I think I got flavored by question 6 on the sample questions that you sent us.
Yeah.
Mackenzie, how would you evaluate what should be the priorities for the library relative to other services?
Yeah.
Oh.
Right. So that got that flavor translated into this question here, but I'm happy to drop it.
I think so.
Well, that might be sort of in the very first question where we're trying to find out what this person, what are the books and authors that this person thinks are important, I guess.
Can we take out the word with here? Tell us about your experience developing and advocating for the budget.
Yeah, I used working because I also wanted it not to be a once a year thing, but an ongoing thing. Maintaining.
And the sentence doesn't work anymore. Tell us about your experiences developing and advocating for a budget. They won't have worked on our budget. Nope, that made it worse.
Oh, really? I thought that, well, I think that's good.
About that. Whoops.
I
I
think
like that better.
this is Dan. I think the way you have number 8 worded pretty much covers number 9 also. Most towns are not in the financial situation that Irving is, and if they've developed budgets and advocated for them at all, other towns, there's so much limited funding to go around. They're advocating not against, but alongside of police, fire, schools, everybody else that needs a limited amount of money. And then, to me, they need to show me some experience of advocating for library funds, because you got to put out the fires, you have to catch the criminals, but there's more to life, and the library fills that gap.
All right, I just added something to throw a twist into it.
That's a much different question though. So again, that makes it a much lengthier question because you're asking developing and advocating, and now you're asking staying within. Those are
Right, but if we're only getting one budget question,
that's just, I think we're going to have to make sure that if we leave it like this, I think we need to make sure that the candidates answer both parts of that question clearly.
Did I? Well, I don't quite understand the question of staying within a budget. Is that something that the library has a problem with? Oh, it is?
no, it's something that a library director has to stay on top of, or there will be trouble.
Yeah.
You spend all your money in the first 6 months, then all of a sudden we're cutting services and it doesn't look good.
No, yeah, no, I get that. I wouldn't have thought somebody might do that, but that's okay. I don't know. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, good.
The library that I worked in, the librarian didn't spend the money until June, and then she'd try to spend it all. So I think it's really important to know that they can spend it over the course of the year, because June was a crazy month.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Cool. You want to just leave it as 2 questions for now and move on?
I'm not really sure what I would expect somebody to answer for number 9. To Jane's point, what are we looking for in that question?
Well, since I wrote it, I guess I'll say I'm looking to see if somebody has experience actually managing budgets and having to pace themselves and make changes as things change during the year.
I like what you're trying to say. I'm not sure that your questions will get us there. We have, okay, let's go on. Let's go on to 10 through 13 and let's come back, because I think that's an important question. Let's get through the rest of them and then let's come back to number 9. Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
Okay, give it a little think time. I think number 10 is really important because that's what Barbara does now, but I don't know if the town is going to move to a different if the town is going to move to a different sort of a setup with with IT, is this going to be as crucial as far as the IT part of it? I mean, we certainly want somebody who's good with technology and can teach patrons and all of that. But Barbara does so much of the IT work as far as like the malware and all of that. I'm not sure if we're going to continue to need that or not. So I'd like to hear everybody's thoughts on that.
We need it right now.
Yep, that's true.
We may not need it long term, but we will need it in the immediate future. And when a computer isn't working and you have 3 patrons and they all want to get on one, it's really great to be able to yell for Barbara.
Yeah.
Yep, I can see that.
I believe it's important for whoever the candidates are to have good firm experience in this, I'll call it IT stuff. I'm a willing dinosaur, but I wouldn't go down there and attempt to try to tell people how to fix things and make it work. And if you're in a setting, as you said, you got 2 or 3 people who want something to work and it really doesn't satisfy them. Say, well, come back next week, we'll call somebody.
Okay, I think it's a good question. I definitely like the question.
I made up a bunch of stuff to throw in there. I was hoping that somebody who knew more about technology would help me with the language there.
What my one question, does Barbara deal, well, she does deal with, I mean, you all deal with your wireless network. Is that right, Jean? Within the library? Well, now the new library.
We do.
Yeah. Yeah, other than that,
I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's sort of a list of stuff, and what you want is to make sure somebody really, even if they maybe don't have experience in each one of those, kind of can look at that list and sort of go, oh yeah. None of that is like foreign or yeah, and to what Dan just said, it may be that somebody doesn't have experience with one of those things, but it's kind of like I think what you want to get at is somebody who feels pretty confident about a problem in just about any one of those things.
Yeah, I've come around to the question. I think it's a good question overall. I didn't know how much more we were going to need it, but Jean is right. We need it now, so we should ask about it now. So I like it.
Yeah.
This particular question will let a couple of candidates really shine, and a couple of candidates we may find out some of their weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Exactly. And then you'll just sort of have to decide. I mean, it might be that somebody who's not so good, who might not be able to fix things herself or himself, but knows, how to get somebody on the phone right away, or I don't know. I think that it will tell you a lot about the person, one way or the other.
Okay. I think it sounds like pretty much people are in favor of this one. So I think number 11 is also a really important one. I know, again, that's something that's been very popular, is having less tech savvy people getting help in the library. So I'm in favor of number 11 as well.
I agree.
I think it's our expectation that anybody with a degree in library science would have good answers to 10 and 11. Certainly anybody who got the degree in the last 10 years.
I think that's reasonable, especially for a small town like us. We really rely on the library to help out with technology.
I suspect some of them will be better at 10 than 11, and that's the reason why I wrote 2 questions.
Yep, I think it's good. Unless anybody objects, I think we'll move on to 12. I I think this is an important one because just as much as we want young kids to come into the library, we also want older people to come into the library. So, I think I would like, go ahead.
I think it's good that it says older adults, not just senior citizens.
Yep.
A lot of times people over 60 don't want to be considered senior citizens. Plus you got people of 30, 40, 50, they're older than 10. We'd like to address something for all of them.
I agree. I would also like to say though, can we add to this question? Tell us your vision of how a small town library, I want to know your vision of how Irving's library can make a difference in the lives of older adults, and then like by doing what, or how. I want to follow up with that, with specifics of how this person, like we did in the other questions, specifically what can you offer, or what's your vision for older adults in the library, because that is a completely different demographic than the teen room kids.
So the follow-up may depend on them knowing what we already have and do.
Well, yes and no. I mean, even if we already do it, if they mention it, then it gives us the information that they clearly feel like it's an important thing, and we can say, oh, right, we already do that. But it's important for us to hear what they think is important.
Something like that.
What have you tried in the past? What have you tried? There was a question on one of those, the thing I think that we looked at the other meeting. Something like this. Oh, shoot, it just went right out of my head. Maybe, how does the library make a difference in the how would the library, or how could it make a difference in the lives of older adults?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was on the one that we read out loud last time.
I like hearing about a vision, but you can sort of get lost in that. And maybe because we want to hear very specific, right? Specifically.
Yeah, I think you're right, Jane, that there's kind of your vision and then there's reality, and so as much as I want to hear their vision, I also want to hear the reality of what realistically can you provide us in this library for older adults.
Oh, impact. Let's try spelling it right.
I think,
if
you guys can bear with me as I scroll back up. I think we could almost model it in the same way we have the question number 3. Tell us about your experience and what have you found engages them? What services and activities would you offer? That's what I want to know. So I want to know it both for the young adults, and I want to know about it for the older adults. Those are the things that are important for me to be asking, I think.
Sort of like 13.
Yeah, I mean, I would almost say that's all I need is number 13 instead of number 12.
That's okay. We got the word vision out of there anyway.
Yeah.
I would take out a little too, not tell us a little about your experiences, but
Yes.
just.
Yeah,
I
tell us.
agree.
tell us.
Tell us about your experiences. Yeah.
I'll get there.
It's fine to me.
Okay. I like number 13.
I'm fine with 13.
I imagine this as being a question and a follow-up question. Sometimes it makes sense to give them all the questions at once. This is kind of repetitive. We could make it simpler with describe your leadership style with feel responsible to supervise with peers and other such adults. Like this. Whoops.
Yep.
That's a little less clunky.
Mm-hmm. Unless anybody else has anything to say about number 13, we'll move on. We will move on.
I would just edit, there was something sounds a little funny to me.
Mhm.
Describe your leadership style with people you are responsible for supervising, or the two supervise sounds funny to me. Oh, so with people you supervise. There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's much better.
Yep, I agree. So that leaves us with 13 questions, which is a lot. But I'm thinking maybe we should go through one more time and just make sure that we want to keep all of them. Again, we have a limited amount of time with people, and I don't want to rush through any of these questions. I think, they're good. So maybe we can go through and just, with a real critical eye, make sure that everything that we're asking is what we want. We will remember this is the first round of interviews. My expectation is that we will have at least 2 rounds of interviews. So if you feel like something should be asked, we can think about whether you want to do it in this round or the next round.
Oh, interesting.
Mackenzie, before we go back through,
Yep.
how long are we expecting each interview to last?
We haven't decided. So that's up
Okay,
for.
well, we had talked about only interviewing on 2 days, the 7th and the 8th. We have 7 candidates. If interview is an hour, we can't do 13 questions in an hour.
Right, and I also don't know that we can do them over 2 days. We may need a third day because we're starting at 5 o'clock. So that's something that we definitely need to be thinking about and deciding both how long the interviews are going to be, over how many days, and then how many total questions we're expecting to ask. Again, I think
okay. I think it's.
Go ahead.
I think it's important before we decide, as we go through these questions, to keep in mind that it's not fair to have somebody come and do a Zoom interview for an hour and a half. That's a long time for an interview.
Oh, sure. I agree.
But
I don't think we'd
sort
have
of have to have
to go through.
Yeah.
And-
How-
and-
how- Could I just
Sometimes
chime
what-
in?
Sure.
How about if we start each interview telling people, we have a number of questions. The position is important to us. We'll try to zip through our questions in 1 hour. We ask for their help, try to, as concisely as they can, answer our questions. If it takes a little more than an hour, it takes a little more than an hour. And if it takes us 3 days instead of 2, I don't care. That's what it takes. Some may be very quick at answering questions, other may take a longer time to answer their questions. I think assigning an hour is appropriate and letting them know we're just trying to accomplish it in an hour. So we're all on the same starting page.
I definitely agree, Dan, that we need to lay out for them how long they have. That's pretty common, at least in my experience, of knowing how long your interview time is. I would even suggest that we do 45 minutes and then we do 15 minutes after to kind of debrief quickly before the next interview happens, so that they're done on the hour, but that the actual interview is only expected to last for 45 minutes. Again, that being said, we need to decide whether we're going to keep all 13 questions. Sometimes what happens is people answer, you're on number 6, but you answer number 7 along with it because the person's just rolling along and they've given you all the information you need for number 7 in number 6. So sometimes that sort of thing happens. Sometimes you have to ask follow-up questions because it's like pulling teeth to get an answer. So it could go either way. But I definitely agree that we need to, that we need to tell people how long they have so that they can pace themselves.
If you go with 45 minutes, that gives 2 or 3 minutes. Only takes like 15 seconds to ask the question. It gives 2 or 3 minutes for them to answer each one. Some they'll answer quicker, some more lengthy. I think 45 minutes is a good starting point. If we go over a little bit, it's not the end of the world.
I think you do want people to be concise. It sort of tells you something if somebody rambles or isn't concise, doesn't stick to the point.
So should we go through the questions and just make sure we love all of them?
I honestly think we should go through and try to delete a few because we can't ask 13 in 45 minutes.
Okay, let's start at number 1.
Go back.
Let's go through again. Here we go. How do people feel about? Let's do similar to the way that we did the applicants. Let's just kind of everybody vote on number 1. Yes or no? And
No.
okay. I need you to be verbal because I'm lost the screen where your faces are. So if everybody could just give a quick vote.
Jean says no.
I'd probably go, this is Dan, I'd probably go along with no. We've got library workers, personnel there also. I don't think we're going to get stuck with somebody who only gets, 1 or 2 authors they like. It seems inherent that people would choose a wide variety. As much as I'd like to know what it is they might choose, I suppose it doesn't make a lot of difference in the question.
Okay. So Dan's a no, Jean's a no.
I think we could do without that, or that might be a second round. Collection development's kind of the basis of what a librarian does, and all of these people are coming with degrees. It might be interesting to know sort of what their biases is, but I think that that's really a maybe second interview question we could ask, getting to know this person.
Okay, so Rupert, can you just kind of tuck that down at the bottom with under a heading, possible second question? Although sorry, I want to hear from Charlie and I do want to hear from you, Rupert.
You can remove that question for me.
It's okay with me. Postpone.
Okay. Great. All right, moving on. So now our new number one is about the library staying closed. What would you offer your patrons and what do you see staff doing? So let me just go down the list. So Charlie, yes or no?
I like the question.
Okay. Dan?
I like it. I think we need something in there about the current pandemic.
Great. Jane?
Yeah, I like it. I just want to, one thing I also want to say though is we later or might want to think about the order of the questions. I think we should keep this one. I'm not
Okay.
sure it should be the first one, but maybe. I just
Okay.
want to say that order will be important too.
Okay, let's just go through them and then we can order, we can reorder them. Jean
I would like to keep that one.
and Rupert.
I don't care about it, but
Okay,
it's fine.
so consensus is we'll keep it. Number two. Again, I'm just gonna kind of go down the list. So Charlie, you're up first.
Can I actually go last?
You went last all last week, last time. I felt bad that I was always making you last.
I'm used to it. I have a Z last name.
Would you like to go last? We'll make you last.
Monsieur Z.
All right, Dan, you're up.
All right, I'm happy leaving it in there. I think if we don't encourage and enthuse young people, pretty soon we'll all be gone. They'll be the old people. Nobody will be using the library at all.
Okay. Jane?
That Jane, me, I'd say keep it.
Okay. Jean?
I'd say keep it.
Okay. Rupert? Charlie?
Keep it.
All right. Number three. Jean? Number three.
I almost think I'd like it more for the second round.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Jane?
Yeah, I was thinking that also. I don't even remember us talking about it the first time through, but I would, to me, it's a lot of them answered it in their cover letters to a certain degree, but it's a good also get to know the person kind of question.
Okay. Dan?
Maybe I missed something. Did we ascertain that we're actually going to have a second round?
Well,
We make it through the first round, say, yeah, that person right there, we all agree. And we don't get to ask the question at all.
I guess, Dan, that was my assumption, was that we were going to do 2 rounds. The first
Okay.
round was going to shorten it to hopefully a short list, and then the second round was going to clinch it. That was
That's fine
my
with me.
vision. So, Dan, what do you think about number 3?
I'd like to see Rupert had his hand up. I'd like to know what he has to say.
I can't see that. Sorry. Thanks.
Sorry, my hand is up. Yeah, I think this is a great icebreaker question. It's a good way to start off the interview. It's an expected question, and
Yep.
it sort of helps break the ice and get people going and talking.
Yeah. I agree. I agree with both of those, actually. I agree that we could definitely have it as the icebreaker, and I also agree that it's a nice second round, more get to know you. So maybe if we decide to keep it in for this round, we could do a little bit more or something similar for a second round.
I like that idea.
Charlie,
Okay,
what do you think?
deadlocked. Charlie.
I like that idea as well of keeping kind of a hint of it in this round, but mainly keeping it in the second round.
Okay, so let's figure something out for this first round to keep it in. I can't remember whether I've asked everybody or not, but if somebody feels strongly that they do not want it, speak up now. Okay, moving on to number 4, availability. So Jean, what do you think about number 4?
Jean really just doesn't want to get stuck working Sundays, but I'm fine. I'm fine with that.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Jane.
I think this could be a quick answer, I mean, I think, at first I thought maybe we didn't need it, but you know, this one won't take long. They either feel okay or they don't feel okay.
Okay, so Dan?
I'm fine leaving it in there. I think we need to know right away. If people just say, no, I'm never working on a Sunday, it's good to know.
Okay. Charlie?
I think we should keep it.
Okay. Rupert, I can't remember.
My feeling, I think it's a valid question. I think it could be a really quick answer. I'm reluctant to say every Sunday. I mean, if Christmas falls on a Sunday or whatever, I'd be more comfortable if it said working Sundays. But we had a big debate about this last time.
We wouldn't be open on Christmas anyway, so but I understand what you're saying. I'm okay with you changing it to working Sundays instead of every Sunday.
It would indicate a little bit of flexibility on our part.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. Sorry, Jean.
I just think it's a fluff question because I think I would be surprised if somebody said no, but consensus seems to be that everybody wants to ask it, so we'll keep it in. And I think unless somebody feels strongly otherwise, I think we'll change it to Sundays instead of every Sunday. I just think it
Fine with
sounds.
me.
Could I ask again, now that the director position is full-time, does that mean you're not going to have the other, you know, Andrea's position? Is that gone?
No,
Oh,
it's
okay.
not. No, it'll be a director and two library assistants, the way we have it now.
Jane,
Okay,
our model is to
So
try to have
we'll have 2 people in the building.
whenever
Oh,
it's
right,
open.
right. You did say that. I'm sorry. Okay, thanks.
Okay, unless anybody else, anything else to say, we're gonna move on to number 5. Jean, what do you think about number 5?
I like 5.
Okay. Jane?
Yeah, I think you want to hear a little bit about what they have to say about library events.
Okay. Dan?
I think it should stay in there, and I think it's incumbent on us to carefully listen. If they have a difficult time coming up with any particular event they planned, and we expect them to plan dozens of events, we need to know that.
Yep. And also, if they never thought any of them were unsuccessful, I think, you know, or can't give a reason why, that's telling as well. Charlie?
I think it should stay.
Okay, and Rupert?
Fine with me. Do you want to flesh out a little bit of background information for the question right now while we're on it?
I think, well, Dan, you speak to this because I think you were the one who was talking about it, right?
About the event planning, or
Yeah.
yeah, on the event planning, it may or may not be any in their expertise of having planned a variety of events. And it seems when I read the around town, there's dozens of things, everything under the sun, from historical recreations, reenactments of people. I think I mentioned Chuckles a Clown and Elvis impersonator and whatever, all kinds of programs. And if we don't have a library director that's going to continue that, it's going to drastically change what people are getting from our library. So we need to know if they have some expertise in planning any, and if they have trouble coming up with one or two, we should ask follow-up questions. Say, you know, are you really feel competent? You're going to feel comfortable planning a variety of things.
Yep. I think that's great.
Okay, so I threw a sentence in the beginning. I don't know if everybody can see it. We have a history of running many events for all age groups and various interests. Tell us about a library event you planned.
Mm-hmm.
Does that work?
Yeah.
Fine with me.
And the question does say either one that was successful or one that was unsuccessful. Everybody's okay with that. It's not like we're going to hear about several events. We'll probably just hear about one. If that's okay, right? I mean,
That's a good point, Jane. I kind of want to hear about the unsuccessful ones, why they weren't. I mean, anybody can kind of
Yes.
brag, right? I mean,
Yeah, that's sort of typical interview meat. Tell us something that went poorly and what you learned from it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I personally would rather hear about one that didn't go well and why and what they would do differently in the future. To me, that's more telling than one that they had great success with. I mean, that's lovely, and I want to hear about it at another time, but I'm more interested in how you grew as a person, you know, as a professional when something didn't go right.
Right.
I also almost think that we might want to take out the word very, because it almost sounds like you want to hear about a train wreck that happened
Yeah.
instead of just something that was just maybe just a little bit bad.
I was thinking
Yeah.
the same thing, Charlie. Yep.
Good point.
Right.
That was unsuccessful.
How about if I just say one that was not?
Yes. And again, I almost don't care about the
Oh.
successful ones. I'm more interested in the unsuccessful one.
How's that look?
Yeah. I'm okay with it. Does anybody have strong feelings that they do not want number 5?
Nope.
Okay. Number 6. I think number 6 is good. Obviously the last question you wouldn't ask if the person didn't have any experience. So the last part of that question. Does anybody have strong feelings that they do not want to keep number 6? This might be a quicker way to go through it.
Well, I think if we need to get rid of a question, that number 6 could be one that we could save for later. That's going just a little bit deeper into what they might do as a director. And in some ways, I mean, it's not the same. It's definitely not. I don't know. If there's anything in that question that could anything in that be included in some other question too? I wonder. But to me, it's if we really need to get rid of some questions, this is one that I feel like we could probably postpone.
Could I ask, as we're going along, you might put it the next interview, or you might put it as the final question of the first interview, if things go along quickly and there's plenty of time to ask it. But if you're pressed for time and you need your interviews to move along, we could ask it the next time.
Well, again, in order to stay consistent, I really think that if we ask it of one person, we've got to ask it of everybody.
Whatever you want, yeah, I don't care.
Let's put a little asterisk next to that one and keep on going, and let's come back to that since we have a couple of we don't have great consensus here. Let's move on to number 7. Does anybody feel strongly that they do not want number 7?
I'd like to see 7 and 8 work into one question.
Okay. I think it's a big question then if we put those two together.
Maybe.
Tell us about just developing, advocating.
I don't really understand 8. I guess I'm still not sure what you're trying to get at.
Somebody else want to try answering that?
Okay, could I just say, kind of silence here? Seems to me that it seems like anybody who's applying here would understand they need to stay within the budget. They can't just, get, 9/10 of the way through the year and say, gee, we ran out of money. We can't spend another nickel, or there's no, additional funding. I mean, have they stayed within the budget or not? Seems like a very quick question. even if it's added to number 7. Seems to me like the answer is very quick.
But what are we actually trying to get from this question? What are we trying to learn?
So somebody who doesn't have a lot of overall top-level management experience may never have had to wrestle with a budget. They may never had to go, oh, geez, I need an extra $300 for this. I'm going to have to take it from that. Oh, well, that's going to be short-funded. How am I going to deal with it being short-funded? What can I do?
Right.
And if they're not paying attention to that, it can happen.
So is it sort of like, is it sort of like a person staying on a timeline of a budget? Because also what Jean had mentioned about somebody who wasn't able to, who didn't spend anything until the very end. I'm wondering if it's got something to do with, keeping on top of a budget and keeping on top of the timeline of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm trying to flesh out the question.
Right. The thing about budgets is it's not the same. You don't spend the same amount out of every category every month. There's stuff that you hold back in case there's an emergency, and then when you get to April, you go, okay, I don't have those emergencies. Now I can spend this money on this other thing that I was hoping I would have money for.
Can we ask something like, what's your experience managing a budget? Or I have, in your professional life, have you been the one that needs to keep track of the budget? Or I understand where you're trying to get to. I'm just not, I don't know that question really is it. I also want to make sure that they understand, I think an important part for the trustees is that we do get a budget update every time we have a meeting. So almost, a monthly. And I would want to make sure that they are able to do that, like have experience doing that. So in that way, they have to manage their budget because every month they're reporting to us. So I'm not sure how to put that into a question.
Yeah, there you go. What's your experience?
That works, Rupert.
Yeah.
Fiscal year? Do we need fiscal, or do we assume that's
Don't
what we?
care. Don't
Yeah.
care.
All right. I'm good
Does
with
that
that
feel
one.
better, Mackenzie?
Yeah, I like it.
Nice.
Does anybody else have anything to say about number 7? Okay, let's move on.
Hey, we got rid of a question.
Yeah, I think
We're now on one page.
I like it. Yeah, all right, we still got 11 though. I don't know. We just talked about these last few. So let's just, okay, so does anybody have anything, does anybody not want to keep number 8? Okay, how about number 9? How about number 11? I'm sorry, 10. I don't know what happened there. I forgot how to count. Okay, and now number 11. I think these are all great questions.
Yeah.
So I
think all of them.
Yeah. So I think Jane had an interesting idea. She said if there was one question I was going to vote off the island, it would be number 6.
Yeah.
Right. For me, if there was one question I was going to vote off the island, it would be number 1.
I think number 6 is really, to me, number 6 is important because we are a small town, because because the library does collaborate with all of these people. So I would like to hear, I would like that question. For me, the question is this round or next round. Boy, it's tough for me. I like both of them. I would keep both of them. That would be my vote.
Okay, so you don't want to vote anybody off the island.
I don't. I mean, I know that's 11, but I don't think, typically I've seen 10 questions, so I don't think 11 is that, much more. I think somebody mentioned that some of these questions will go fairly, like number 4 will go fairly quickly. So I think time-wise, we could fit 11 questions in, but that's my vote. I vote for all 11.
I'm sorry, I just added number 12.
No.
You have to look and see.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that you might want to add a question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll give you number 12. That's
I'm happy
I'm
with
sorry,
all
I
of it.
missed number 12. Oh,
It says,
I
what
got it.
questions do you have for us?
Yeah.
Okay.
so
I'm happy with all of them.
I'm going to vote for 12, for all 12 of them. Charlie, was that you that I heard?
No, but I agree with you. I think we should do those 12.
Okay. Dan, how about you?
I'm good with 12.
Jane?
I think it's a good list. Yes.
Okay. Jean?
Yeah, I like the mix. I think we'll get a good feeling for whoever it is.
Okay.
You want
Excellent.
to talk about order?
Rupert?
Like I said, I got one that I'd vote off the island, but that's fine.
Okay. All right. So consensus is that we will hold on to these 12. And so, yeah, I guess we could
talk
reorder
about the
them.
order.
Does somebody have a strong feeling about wanting to order it in a particular way?
I think we should order them very
I really-
strategically.
Okay. Okay, so let's hear from Rupert, and then somebody else wanted to talk.
I like number 3 for the first question.
Okay, Rupert, can you make that number 1?
Done.
I like the COVID question. Yes, I like the COVID question being number 2, just because it's so timely. I don't have a strong feeling about any of the other ones, quite honestly. So does anybody else have a strong feeling about any order of any of the other ones?
I don't.
I only wondered about the 2 technology questions. I don't know what I think of this, but did we want to put them a little bit, space them more or not? Maybe we want them right next to each other. I'm not sure. Just to think about.
That's a good idea. I think it's the second one makes a much better follow-up to number 10. So
Yeah,
I put
that's
technology after older adults.
Oh,
Yes.
I think you're assuming that older adults are the only ones that are less tech savvy. I think clearly from this meeting, you can see that I am not as tech savvy as I'd like to be. So,
I don't
You must
think
be
of
an
you as
older adult.
oh, Rupert.
Mackenzie,
Oh,
Yes.
Mackenzie, you do know that our current director has offered tech help every Tuesday for the last year, right?
Oh, yes. I'm just saying that it's so not being tech savvy doesn't necessarily mean you're an older adult. That's where I was going with it.
yeah.
But I guess
It's a
Rupert
valid
wants to
point.
call me an older adult, so I'm all right.
It's a valid point. I would like to suggest that the collaboration makes a nice final question. Feel good. Here's all the things that I like to do with other people.
Okay.
okay.
Let me know if I'm scrolling too fast. I'm just looking.
What about leadership style? Do we want that a little higher up on the list or at the end also?
This one?
The one that's now, I think it's 10 or 11.
Yeah, leadership.
10, Is that a good spot for it? Yeah, maybe.
We could move it up. I wouldn't want to rush through that question if there's, if we're running short on time.
Yeah.
I would move the question about Sunday down towards the end.
I think that's a gimme question that should be near the top to get it out of the way.
And I was thinking it's a gimme question to put at the bottom in case we were running short on time. Either way is fine.
It'll be a quickie.
Okay, are there any other suggestions?
So, okay, well, so leadership will still be down there, or? Yeah,
I was gonna switch them, but it's
okay.
I'm fine with it.
Where do you want it?
I see.
Where do you want
I'm
leadership
sorry,
to go?
Mackenzie, I didn't quite get that.
I was gonna move leadership up to number 4, flip flop them, but I'm okay either way.
About that. Oh.
As long as we get all the questions answered, I really don't much care which order they're in. You're making good suggestions, but to me, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I agree. We have a few minutes. Does anybody else have strong feelings one way or the other anymore about any of these, about the order? Okay, then I think at this point, let's move on, please, and just think about the schedule of it, because I know that Brian wants to be able to contact the applicants and get the schedule for the interviews. So we talked a few minutes ago about how long the interviews were going to last. I had suggested 45 minutes with a 15-minute in between. Dan had suggested an hour, so I think we're pretty much right in there. So let's just pin down how long we want the interviews to go. And then we really need to be thinking about how late in the evening we're going to go with them as to whether we need 2 days or 3 days to complete them. So let's think about our timing first. How long do people feel the interview should last? Let's just get a clear answer on that.
I don't think they should go over an hour.
I agree. My suggestion is 45 minutes with a 15-minute in between to debrief a little bit. Because remember, what you're going to be doing too is you have the rubric. So you're going to be rating them, and certainly you'll be rating them as you go along, but it does take a few minutes afterwards to kind of tally up the answers and write your final thoughts. So I do want to make sure that we have a little bit of time in between each candidate to just kind of collect your thoughts and then clear them for the next person.
Right. Well, and if one interview was like 50 minutes, I think that would be okay. I mean, I think it is good to have a buffer in there and just really try to keep it as close to 45. But yeah, some may go over, but it definitely an hour is too long, I think. I agree with Jean.
Does anybody else have thoughts?
All good to me.
Okay, so if I'm hearing correctly, we're going to go with on the hour slots, with the expectation that the actual interview is going to last 45-ish minutes, and then the rest of that hour would be spent finishing the rubric and getting ready for the next one. So I'm going to tell Brian to start 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, that sort of thing.
Sounds good.
Right. Oh. Well, Mackenzie, I do think that we should talk about, I started thinking about Jean being in her car for like more than 2 hours. I think that is like absolutely crazy. But But what did you say, Jean, about that you think it's going to be different?
I am looking into a different system. I am hoping to have it installed by this Thursday or Friday, and I'm hoping it will work because it costs a bit of money.
Wow.
I completely.
I can't keep doing this. I can't keep doing this, and I can't really meet my new boss this way. This just doesn't look good for me. I'm either too stupid or too poor or whatever to have a decent internet system. They're not going to understand it's Wendell.
Yeah. Well,
Unless they're local.
for your comfort, I don't want you sitting in the car. That's for sure. If that can't work, I don't know if there's a way that you can. I will try and troubleshoot a way for some other situation for you. But that being said, we have a lot of candidates. Do we feel that 2 days is enough, or do you want to have a third day?
I would prefer to go to 3, so we're not trying to jam somebody in. We're tired, they're tired, we're trying to get them at 9 o'clock at night or something. I'd prefer to go to 3, but to speak to what Jean just said, if we've got candidates with experience, say in West Springfield or downtown Boylston or whatever it is, it's good for us to know if they know that out here it's different. There are people who do not have good internet access. They need to service them. And to your point, Jean, people do only get to make one first impression. And to me, a first impression of I'm committed enough, I'll sit here in my car and do this is a good first impression. If you got some other system to go, that's fine. But it's inconvenient, but you're doing it anyways. I think it's good for our candidates to see that. They may or may not know beans about Wendell, but they should.
Dan, I agree. I think it makes Jean look super dedicated that she's willing to do that. So I don't take that as a bad thing at all. But I agree with what you're saying, Dan. Does anybody not want to do 3 days and wants to try and get them in 2? Okay, so we have a Thursday, a Friday. Are we looping around to the Monday then for the third day?
What would anybody feel okay about doing Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon?
I am.
I can do whichever you want.
I'm okay with it too. Charlie, we haven't heard from you.
I'm fine either way.
Okay.
I think it's better to do them 3 in a row. I can do Saturday.
Okay. We could certainly put more of them on a Saturday because we're not worrying about the night factor, the going late into the night. So Saturday would be Sorry?
I agree with trying to push more on Saturday than on the weekdays.
Okay.
We do 2 a night on Thursday, 2 a night on Friday, then we would have 3 on Saturday.
I think that's reasonable.
I like it.
Okay, then let's move forward then. To recap, we're going to put hour slots for each candidate with the expectation that they last between 45 and 50 minutes of actual interview time. The rest of the time will be for us to score and debrief. We'll do 2 on Thursday, 2 on Friday, and then 3 interviews on Saturday. What time do people feel is appropriate to start on Saturday?
10 o'clock should be the earliest.
Yeah,
Okay.
10.
The afternoon.
That's just what I was thinking. Excellent. Okay. So we'll do 5 o'clock on Thursday, 5 o'clock on Friday start, and a 10 o'clock in the morning start on Saturday.
So 10, 11, and 12?
Yeah.
Okay.
Could we ask if either of the when Brian talks to them, there might be some who can't meet at Friday on 5 o'clock on Thursday or Friday. They may work and they may request the Saturday, where others may not mind. Could be with all this stuff going on, they're not working much at all.
Yep. Yeah, I'm gonna let Brian manage that part. We just needed to give him the parameters, to stay between. So,
Well, letting him manage it is fine, but I would like if you would ask him, if people have a problem where they can't meet at 5, we've at least got 3 of them that could meet on a Saturday. Somebody
Okay.
might just have to suck it up and meet at 5.
Yep.
Unless you want to change it.
okay.
Could I also, just to throw this out, how would people feel about having the last one be at 12:30? So we all gave ourselves a little bit of a break to grab something to eat, run to the bathroom. I mean, we can do that anyways, but
Or one, either way.
Okay, so let's.
12:30.
I-
Oh, you can't.
I particularly like that idea. I particularly like that idea because when I need to take a bathroom break, it's going to mean a ride down a dirt road.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
You're so funny. I think that's absolutely reasonable.
I'm just being honest.
Okay,
love it.
good.
We'll do a 10 o'clock, we'll do a 11 o'clock, and then we'll do a 12:30. So 12:30 to
And-
1.
I had one last question, which was, it seemed like it came up at the last meeting, some candidates who were concerned about their employers knowing. So this is the point when I guess their employers are going to have to know, right? I mean, Brian will understand that.
Yeah,
part,
so
I don't know.
here's the response. I asked Brian that. So what his response was that once they've accepted an interview, then the name becomes public. I mean, because they'll be on an open meeting for the interview. So we will know them ahead of time, but it will, since the meetings are an open meeting, they, once they accept that interview, then it becomes public knowledge.
Not that we're expecting to advertise the 7 names, but anybody who's curious could find them
Right.
out.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
We're going to do it exactly the way we're doing it here. It's somebody could be could log on at any moment and be part of the meeting silently. They don't get to talk. But yeah, so as soon as they accept that, then it becomes public.
Yeah, I've had situations where interviewee posted on their Facebook page and it spread all over the place. When I was trying to be discreet, it was a little awkward.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Could I ask,
Go ahead, Jane.
I have one more question because I think of these things after and then I think, oh, with open meeting law, what am I allowed to put out there? But the question of Barbara participating, I know it sort of came out that was not okay.
It's not that it's not okay. It's that it's a little bit more difficult because she's not part of our hiring committee. So again, at any point she could be on these meetings. But Brian felt pretty strongly that it would be very difficult to have her as like a consultant. If you could see me, you'd see I was doing air quotes, because she's not part of our committee. And then the question would be how would we use her and what would the parameters be? He said it's very unusual to have a person in the position already be part of the hiring committee. So if we really felt strongly that, we could figure out a way and do it, but it just was going to be logistically very difficult. And the suggestion was made that it probably would be better to not go down that road. But people feel strongly we can.
I feel quite strongly that she has expertise I haven't a clue about. I don't names of these people, and I don't know that she knows them, but she likely might. And I would not expect not trying to ask her to vote on things, but I've been on a number of hiring committees. Typically, their executive session to begin with, they told us we can't, but I see on the selectmen's agenda, they have executive session listed. Maybe that's just a standard thing, but they told us we could not do executive session, had to be public. I don't know the ramifications. It's an odd situation. Don't worry about that now. It's sort of water under the bridge. But for public meetings, for interview of candidates, as I recall, we never asked the peanut gallery to just say, chime in whatever you want about whatever these people have to say. But there was a time for people to comment and say, that guy gave me a ticket for going through a stop sign and slammed my head into the pavement. I don't think you should appoint him to whatever it is. Just an example. I think it would be wise of us to at least hear her counsel somehow. My thought.
Mhm.
Okay. I can pursue it with Brian further, and get some more guidance on how to appropriately do that.
One thing we had talked about, I think before, was whether or not she could give us some guidelines, although that might have been more helpful for today as we were coming up with these questions. I also sort of think of if we were to get to a point where we had several candidates that we just couldn't make up our mind, actually, the last time I was on a hiring committee for a library, that's what happened. We had 3 unbelievably strong candidates, and that's the part that took us the longest. Maybe she could come on board and listen to our concerns. I'm just sort of throwing those out.
Yep. And again, I'll say these are open meetings, so she most certainly could come to any of these meetings and ask to speak. And I, as the chairperson, I can recognize her. She could, at any point she could do that. So that's,
Yeah.
It's not, we're not keeping things from her. It's just, it gets a little bit more complicated when we're formally inviting her to give her recommendations or thoughts on things.
Okay.
I'll just have to work with Brian a little bit more and figure out exactly how to do that.
Okay.
Do enough people feel strongly that they want to pursue that?
I really feel like Barbara has a lot of knowledge that none of us do, and that she could be helpful just with some, even like tonight, it would have been helpful for her with the questions, but I would like to have her on board a little if we could.
Okay. Yep, she's invited to all of these meetings, so they're open meetings. And as of, nope, she's not on. So I can discuss it further with Brian and get a little bit more guidance on how to make that happen.
I have a question about that. How does somebody get into the meeting as a visitor?
It's posted on the it's the just like you had a link to click on, there's a link in the agenda, in the posting that Brian sends out.
Oh.
And so they're able to
that must therefore also be on our webpage someplace?
Sorry?
The town webpage?
Rupert, say it again. I didn't hear what you said.
So is that posting someplace on the town webpage?
Yes. Yep. Just like any of the other, the Board of Selectmen meetings or any of the meetings that are happening right now, because they're all online or virtual. All of them have public links to them so that you can join the meeting.
Okay.
Yep. Are we good?
I have one unrelated question. Mackenzie, Rupert, do you recall when our next trustee meeting is?
No.
I don't have my calendar in front of me, but I can get back to you on that.
Yeah, it's time to let me know later offline. That's fine.
Yep, I will definitely do that. And I just want to remind everybody that when we do the interviews, I want to say it's next week, but I think it's right. Whatever the dates are, that we are going to be using that rubric that you got. It's blank because we didn't include the questions. But they're numbered, so you're just going to take number 1 question, and so that everybody is scoring the results of the answers of the questions that we get, so that we have a process by which to decide what candidates are staying and which are not. Does everybody have that in their packet? Okay, I just want to make sure everybody was familiar with that.
Could I also ask if Rupert might send to us by email, the final list of questions as it turned out?
Sure, it's in the Google Doc. I can download it and then email it.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, Rupert, that way, in case anybody doesn't have Google, they can still have access to it.
Okay, and I'll put them in the minutes, but yeah, that would be great, Rupert, if you could do that.
So the way I set it up, I changed the margins so that our 12 questions fit on the first page. And the second page is postponed questions. One of them is actually a repeat. But those would not be used in our first interview. So
Great. And Jane, you do not need to list all of the questions. You just need to say that the questions were developed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you don't have to
Okay.
have all 12 written out. All right. I think
Okay.
unless anybody else has anything to say.
Well, just thank you all for doing what you're doing. Rupert for typing, Jane for minutes, and Jean in her car, and Mackenzie leading
Mackenzie,
the charge.
that black box, it's totally dark. You should turn a light on, Mackenzie, so we can see you.
I know. Jean, at least the interviewers can see you. I'm gonna really try and find a computer that actually has a working camera. Neither my daughter
Oh.
nor mine have a working
Oh.
camera for some reason.
You can buy them on Amazon. You
I
can
won't
buy
get
a little webcam on Amazon.
Oh yeah. All right. I'll look into it. I don't know if I'll get it before next week, but yeah, all the technology and yet my camera doesn't work. Again, I want to thank everybody for their time and their efforts. This is certainly not the most ideal way to do a meeting like this, but I appreciate everybody's patience and understanding, and we'll get through it.
Could I just say, you mentioned something, I just want to be clear. When you said Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, you were talking about not this upcoming Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, but the following Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Is that correct?
It's the dates that we decided on last week. I don't have a calendar. Wait a minute.
Okay,
May 7th,
In May.
8th.
It's the 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that.
okay.
All right.
Okay.
Unless anybody has anything else, we're gonna sign off. Yep.
I move to adjourn.
I
Excellent.
second the motion.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, Rupert,
Thank you,
second.
everyone.
You beat me to it, Jane. Good job.
There we go. Ah. I still don't know. Oh, there. Okay, there we go.